North Carolina sits Z-Max Dragway, a palatial piece of real estate dedicated to straight-line speed and performance with a flair for the fan. It is the Bellagio of drag strips, and it brings out the best, like 15-time alcohol funny car champion Frank Manzo and Bill Reichert, who has his alcohol dragster back in championship form. If you're ready to go red line on the tack from Z-Max, then don't go anywhere. It is the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series today on ESPN, your home for all things NHRA, from one of the most magnificent drag strips you'll ever see. It's Z-Max Dragway here in Charlotte, North Carolina, home to the 4-wide Nationals. Now here on the Lucas Oil Series, we're only going to be using 2 lanes, but we're going to be going 1/4 of a mile, and that is always awesome. Alongside of Bob Fry, I'm Dave Reeve. Thank you so much for joining us here at the starting line where it all goes down. And Bob, it's all gone down kind of crazy so far in Alcohol Funny Car.
Might have been the most bizarre round one I've seen in Alcohol Funny Car in years. Frank Manzo, who came in with a stunning 202 wins, 29 losses in round number 1, upset in the opening round against Mark Rogers. Cassandra Simonson, who had run career best numbers in qualifying, had a bye run. Couldn't get the car started. Mickey Farrow's guys, who knew that Frank Manzo was out, said we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. Almost did in round number 1. They got away with it. And then Todd Vinny had a bye run, and it's a good thing. Because if there had been another car in the other lane, he'd have been packing it in, just like Frank Manzo. Bizarre.
It's the 4th national event. In the top alcohol dragster so far, it's been dominated by the supercharged machines. Chris Dempke has a pair of wins. Jim Whiteley won. But it seems like all they did is awaken the A-Fuel giant Bill Reichert.
Yeah, took that stick and stirred up that hornet's net that is Bill Reichert. Told me earlier in the year he really wasn't happy peeling the number 1 off of that car. He came out with a vengeance here. Made a sensational run. 5:14 in qualifying under the 94% rule. That is a sensational pass. Backed it up with 2 other good runs. He's the guy to beat right now in Alcohol Dragster.
Well, I think right now we're going to get off this noisy starting line. But as we do, we're going to show you round number 1 highlights. Just proof that it's been a really wacky race here so far. And it all began with the numbers 8 and 9 qualifier, John Fink and Ryan Copeland staging their cars. This one's going to be a whole shot win, though, to the number 9 qualifier.
Yep, the 2 closest cars in qualifying, 8 and 9. The driver wins it on a whole shot. That's why they pay them the big bucks.
Here is Doug Foley in the right lane, Aaron Tatum over in the left. Watch the driver, though, in the right lane.
Yeah, he gets his money's worth. He figures, well, I got about 60 feet over there. I'm going to use up all of it. In the tail of the tape, he's been involved in some great races over the course of his career, and that one he wins that by just about, that looks like about 22 inches to me.
Yeah, give or take a couple. Absolutely, it's 22 inches, absolutely. Dan Page, Matt Cummings.
Cummings with that supercharged machine down in the 12th spot. Qualified very well to 41, gets a very good move and goes wire to wire. The cylinders out on that fuel-injected car cost him right at the stripe. And there you see Cummings advancing, going into round number 2.
And here's how they stack up in that round as the Rizlone giant Bill Reichert slows to a 5:21, but still picks his lane over Ryan Copeland. Richie Burke picks his in the other pair. Over on the other side, it's going to be Mark Tolliver and Doug Foley when Top Alcohol Dragster comes back for the 2nd round. Top Alcohol Funny Car, that was where it was wild and wacky, and it started with the number 16 driver Mark Rogers and Frank Manzo. Does he even go 60 feet? Nope.
I know you'll find this hard to believe, but I had Mark Rogers. No, I didn't.
I would not believe that. Rogers takes the win, 583, and Manzo has all kinds of problems.
Frank still almost ran him down, but that car really only made 1 good run this weekend in qualifying. It was a great run. He'd been over the center line, he shook the tires, and that time he just runs out of racetrack trying to get Mark Rogers at the finish line.
Here comes the number 7 and the number 10 drivers.
There's that reference I made to shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, if John Hendrick had not gotten way out of shape, Mickey Farrow was there for the taking. That's a gift. That's a bonus round that they got right there.
And finally, we wrap it up with Paul Gill set to take on Dan Pomponio as you go one more time, sliding to the left, sliding to the right, and the parachutes needed to straighten that machine.
Yeah, Paul Gill had a very good race car here this weekend, qualified in the number 8 spot. We've seen it before make some monster runs. Car just overpowers the racetrack right here, hops all 4 wheels off the ground, and Dan Pomponio got the shootout early, was off the throttle earlier, but he still gets to go to the next round, 592. Watch this. This is very aggressive.
bouncing and bucking all over the place. But the Moduline team gets the win. Hard to believe, the 8 final drivers that we have left, only one national event winner in the field, and that man's name is Mickey Farrow. As Mark Rogers, Chris Foster will pick their lanes. Over on the other side, it will be Mickey Farrow, Todd Venny in a great matchup, and Andy Boll on a single. Now here's the third member of our team standing by with Bill Reichert. His name, John Kern.
In qualifying, Bill Reichert turned a lot of heads when he ran a 5:14 elapsed time. Haven't seen that in the alcohol dragster ranks in quite some time. So, Bill, where did that come from? How'd you guys do it?
Well, the Rizlo Bars League's car just really stepped up in that last pass. We just tweaked it a little bit, and sometimes you're not really looking for something like that, but it just does everything right, and it takes off.
Well, he ran a 5:21 first round of eliminations. He has Ryan Copeland coming up next. And remember at Gainesville, Chris Dempke said there was a new sheriff in town? Well, I think the old sheriff is back looking to reclaim his badge.
And here we go with our first pair in the quarterfinal round. It will be that man, the number 5 qualifier, Chris Foster, set to take on the number 4 machine belonging to Ray Drew.
There were not a whole lot of cars from the top half of the field that advanced, and of course anytime Frank Manzo's on the sidelines after round 1, it just opens it up, becomes a wide open affair. So Ray Drew getting set to go right now. Chris Foster, very solid race team here. This is anybody's race, and a great opportunity with the champ on the sidelines for somebody to make hay while the sun shines here at ZMAX.
Yeah, a little bit ago the clouds were out and it was actually cool, but now it's going to start warming up that racetrack, and crew chiefs are going to have to earn their money. Drivers are going to have to pay attention. Now that's a pretty good drag race. 2 cars locked side by side all the way to the finish line with a 5. Whoa, hold on. That's your winner, Chris Foster, who just went 5:57, but had some problems there in the shutdown area.
He had his hands full out there on the racetrack for a while, as did Ray Drew. They were both skating around just a little bit. You don't normally see that at the end of the track. You heard them really load those cars up in the starting line, see them hop around a little bit. Foster near the center line, and at the end of the racetrack, this thing just starts drifting over. Gets over near the wall. Yeah, trying to get those chutes out, and probably just tagged it just a little bit. Great drag race, too. Cars running 5:57s a pair. Foster gets the nod there by just about that much.
Well, we are very privileged here in Charlotte, North Carolina, to be joined by the 3-time full throttle Top Fuel champion of the world, Larry Dixon, a man who started in the very Lucas Oil series that Bob Fry, you and I love so much. You drove for John Mitchell way back in the day, but how cool is it to come back and see where you came from again?
I'm a racing fan, number one, before I'm a driver or anything else, and to be able to watch the the Sportsman series, these are all the guys that, a lot of them do it for a living, and other ones, are looking to aspire up to the pro ranks. So it's, I'm watching.
It's almost a cliche that we say, Larry. So many of the drivers that run down the full throttle class actually got their start here. A lot of guys did with the same driver, the same car owner that you did, John Mitchell.
Oh yeah. After I got into, he went through. He had a couple of the Petrogons drove for him, and then I got in the car. And then after me, it was Ron Capps, and then you saw David Grubnick and a few other people along the way. So it's just it's a good series to learn what you're doing without the speeds and the horsepower.
And just like the Top Fuel cars have stepped up so much, Bill Reichert ran a 5:14 in an A fuel car. Could you ever imagine that when you were back driving for John?
No, I think the fastest I went was like maybe 6 flat. I mean, we're going back 20 years, but still at the same time, they're making so much. They're making more power now than the Top Fuel cars did maybe 25 years ago.
And I'd say it's all worked out pretty well for you. We'll find out your future plans in a moment. One more look, though. We've got the Direct TV blimp. So that's going to be a great vantage point, Bob, looking down on high.
Yeah, Will Hanna going crazy on the starting line. That's before what went on at the end of the racetrack. We talked about it being a wacky round. Well, one driver could not get started in the opening round on a bye run, and that means Andy Boll comes over here and he gets the bye run. Just the nature of the beast. Those things happen sometimes, Larry.
Yeah, that's crushing. When you think you got a free pass into the next round and you don't, they actually talked to the team and they had a fuel pump, the drive shear off, and they couldn't get the car started. After
making 2 good runs, she ran career best numbers on 2 of her 3 runs in qualifying. So now Andy Boll with a free shot right here gets an opportunity to test the racetrack and see what he can do going into the semifinals. These cars are so different on the starting line from what the pro guys drive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, because you have all the clutch. You're not allowed the lock-up clutches. So whatever clutch you have is what you've got going down the racetrack. So it's really tricky getting them off the line.
So a free look at the racetrack here. Everything looking about as good as it can be in an alcohol funny car as Andy goes 565, 255 miles an hour. And we'll wait to see whether he races Todd Veney or Mickey Farrow coming up. Meanwhile, down at the far end of the racetrack, that's where we find John Kernan in one giant white scuff mark.
Well, I don't know if I would call it a giant one. We're going to call this a Z-Max mini stripe, as Chris Foster definitely got up against the wall. Also, we saw you do that at Gainesville. What happened there? How wild a ride was that?
When it came through, the chute lever busted off the ceiling, so was reach up and just grab the cables and try and pull it by by hope and a prayer, I guess. But all in all, great. Started out really rough this week here. 2 motors in the first 2 qualifiers, and then we've just stepped up the program and continually into 50s. Can't help but everything's going great. And Redline Oil, I'd like to thank them a lot for this.
Yeah, just throw a little duct tape on it. It'll be okay.
You got it.
Yeah, some of that 260-mile-an-hour stuff will work just fine. Here are 2 guys that came out of the bottom half of the field. Dan Pomponio, the number 9 qualifier, and of course Mark Rogers, who took down Frank Manzo. Larry, I want to show you this. Got a great onboard look with Andy Bull looking down on his feet, doing the old 1-2, dropping the clutch, stabbing the gas.
Now fans can learn and see why we don't have foot brakes in the car, because you're using both feet, the clutch pedal and the throttle pedal, to work the car in the staging process. When the ambers go on and then the light goes green, you swap feet and you're wide open throttle and using that handbrake.
And those RPMs we hear on the starting line, it just sounds like it's just killing the motors.
Oh yeah. And there's a set RPM that you got to leave at too, and that's very tricky for the drivers to be able to get, because if it's high or low, a given 100, 200 RPM, that affects the amount of clutch. The amount of clutch that you have on the starting line. So it's very critical that you have the right RPM when you do leave the starting line.
Here's a driver, an opportunity for one of these 2 drivers to go into uncharted territory, into the semifinals. Mark Rogers, the guy that upset Frank Manzo. They met at Gainesville. Frank proceeded to take him out right there. But that stunning upset in round number 1, and Dan Pomponio in that wild ride against Paul Gill. So 2 guys that have never been to the semis. Somebody's going to do it here at Z-Max.
And that man's name is Dan Pomponio, 570, 256 miles an hour. Mark has problems and fades down the quarter mile.
Guy that I used to announce in Super Guest at ATCO, going to the semifinals here at the Big Show.
Hey, you want wheel standers? We got wheel standers, not quite like Larry Dixon did in his Top Fuel car. We'll ask him about that and a whole lot more when we come back to Z-Max.
The NHRA Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series brought to you by Lucas Oil, the world leader of high-performance lubricants and problem-solving additives for everyday cars and trucks.
Oh, here's a great look down at Z-Max Dragway here in Charlotte, North Carolina, courtesy of the Direct TV blimp. Call yourself a sports fan, you gotta get Direct TV. Now Todd Veney and Mickey Farrow have completed their burnouts, and as they back up, send it down to the far end. John Kernan.
Andy Bull, and Andy, on a single there, you ran a 565. Were you happy with that?
Not at all. That wasn't a good run. It shook. We didn't fix the ignition problem. It started breaking up on the top end. The race car is kind of pathetic, really. I got one more thing I'm going to try before this round, and I'm sure I'm going to need it racing either Todd or Farrow. I can't run like that. I don't think I could have beat anybody so far with a run like that. So we're going to try. Hopefully we can figure out and make a good run. Got to thank Competition Products, Hedman, Manton, Redline, my crew, everybody for helping me and coming this far to this race. I really appreciate it, and we'll try and do better next round.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Check out the stack I look for.
Spoke to Mickey Farrow's crew earlier today. They've had a tough time this weekend. Second round of qualifying, they broke a ring and pinion. Third round of qualifying, they broke a push rod. They took off the supercharger. Then he had to pedal it in the first round. They're really looking to find their groove.
Jay Blake was the guest speaker at the New York Auto Dealers Show, where I was last week. Did a marvelous job. Also here promoting the Hot Rod for Heroes. Todd Veney's got 3 Medal of Honor medals with him on this run down the racetrack. But a great opportunity. There's Jay on the starting line. A great opportunity for 2 of these guys who are going to contend for the championship to pick up points with Frank already back in New Jersey.
Well, I'd say Mickey found it. 557, 260 miles an hour. Starts with an 0:15 reaction time, Larry. Boy, wire to wire there.
He wasn't going to give Todd Veney any chance of winning that round, and boy, he had the great package there. He had the obviously the reaction time and the great 5:57 run, and it's That's a strong package to beat. Looks like his race so far to win.
Yeah, Todd had an 039 light, which in driver terms is very good. You just got beat by the better car. Occasionally, you just have to get out of the car and congratulate the other guy.
Yeah, you got to take it like a man.
Yeah.
That was a very strong run.
Here's how the Alcohol Funny Car semifinals stack up here at the 4-wide Nationals, with Chris Foster picking his lane, and he takes on Dan Pomponia, and it will be Mickey Farrell picking his against Andy Bull. Let's check in with John and Dan and everybody else at the far end.
Well, a very happy Dan Pomponio after running that 570 there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a good run. We need to step it up a little bit for the next round, but we should be good. Everything looked good.
Well, he's got a big smile on his face. Also has his whole family here watching this weekend as he goes to the semis.
I'd like to also thank, if I could, everybody back at Precision Automation, all the friends and family that helped us do this. Thank you very much.
Where's that accent come from?
There's no accent.
Well, that's the burnouts of Bill Reichert and Chase Copeland as we go ahead and take a look at the Lucas Oil ladder, where Reichert picks his lane in this matchup. Richie Bork will pick his in the bottom half. Over on the other side, it's going to be Mark Tolliver picking his lane against Sidney Frigo. And then it will be Doug Foley picking his against Karen Staubel.
No matter what happens in this pair, I want to say that I've watched Bill Reichert for almost his entire career. I can't tell you if he's had a better race car coming in to round 2 than what he's had here. Great runs in qualifying, lowered the boom there earlier in the weekend. Got to impress even a guy like you to watch this car and Bill Reichert the way that he does, taking on young Chase Copeland.
And Larry, when you look at the talent coming out of this category and you look at a guy like Chase Copeland, you can see some of his career numbers here, resume numbers. Is this guy a candidate, do you think, could maybe put a little nitro in the tank, go full throttle later?
There's no question about it, especially, I mean, Gene Snow's kind of done the same thing that John Mitchell or maybe Jerry Darian has done in the past, where you got guys coming through. Spencer Massey drove this car before, and he did great things with, winning the divisional championships and other races.
Key right here, I think, on the starting line. If Bill Reichert has one Achilles heel, it's getting that car off the starting line. More often than not, he can run the people down. But Copeland is very strong. Won that first round on a hole shot. So let's watch them as they go by the tree, see if this thing's decided early. But the way that Rizlone car is running here this weekend, I'm not sure Chase can get enough off the line.
Nope, dead even. Way too much Rizlone. Now we got to look at the numbers. 528, 267 miles an hour. And considering that it's warmed up out there, another solid run.
I believe that's his worst run of the weekend.
It is, but
spooky, isn't it, Larry?
Considering what's going on, it's a lot warmer out there now.
A 528 right now, especially with the sun out like that. Yeah, that's obviously a great package to have.
Just about flawless on this, and of course the track and the temperature is a little bit different here, but 528 for that car, that's just a solid performance.
That shot right there, you get to see Chase Copeland. He had a cylinder out from the starting line to the finish line. He was just down on power. 7 cylinders aren't going to beat 8 of those.
No. Let's go down to John Kernan.
Yeah, with Mickey Farrell at 557, they're moving on to face Andy Bull in the semifinals. Any more tune-up there?
I believe there is. I'm not really happy with the 57. I'm sure that there's more in it. We've been struggling with this car all weekend. Broke a push rod on one of the qualifiers, broke a rear end the night before, so my guys have really been working hard. But for Hedman headers and Ryko hydraulics for the green stuff, we're just happy to be moving on. And I'd like to say to my daughter Lene, we just had who had a baby boy, my grandson Anthony. Hope you guys are doing well, and we'll see you guys soon. Love you guys.
All right, he's got to run to catch his ride.
No, that's an accent.
I haven't seen a funny car driver that's won yet that's excited about the win. It sounds like they went through the Frank Manzo school of winners interviews. I mean, just, oh, gosh.
Mark Tolliver, Sidney Frigo are back to the line. Fans are having a good time here all over the 4-wide Nationals, and we'll be back in just a moment. Kernan, Larry Dixon in the booth with us right now. I'm Dave Reef. Thank you for joining us at the 4-wide Nationals as we're working the quarterfinal round of Top Alcohol Drag Strip. The first burnout belonged to Mark Tolliver, the second one to Sidney Frigo. Earlier, Larry, we saw some wheel stands. We'll talk to you about that in just a moment as we send it down to John Kernan.
With Bill Reichert, who wasn't a 514, but Bill, considering conditions, 528, do you think that's pretty good?
Yeah, that isn't too bad. That's happy. I'm happy with that. Bars Leaks Rizlone car did a good job, and got to thank Redline Oil, Lane Automotive, Motor State Distributing, and all those companies who help us get this car down the track. NGK.
Well, we'll see you in the semis. Thanks.
Thank you.
Earlier we saw the sportsman cars doing the wheel stands. We've seen one great one out of Bill Reichert a number of years back. Your car on the fuel category always seemed to go out there and the wheels used to come up. It was one of the prettiest things in all of drag racing. Was it really comfortable for you to drive a race car that lifted the front wheels for so long?
That was Dick LaHaye's setup of the car. The way the engine was located in the chassis, I mean, it was a one-off thing. That was his design, and we ran it. And I mean, yeah, it carried the wheels out there. Really let you know. I mean, there were some runs that literally would set down close to 300 feet down the racetrack, and you could see the smoke blow off the front tires, and you really knew you were scooting at that point.
Two great race cars right here. That's a big-time move. This thing's over early. Red light start for Mark Tolliver and Sidney Frigo, 5:44. Boy, Tolliver throws away a 5:30 and big speed at 278 miles an hour. And another driver going into uncharted territory, Sidney Frigo, in just his 5th race, going into the semifinals.
Oh, 71, that wasn't even close, really, was it?
No, that's something. There's probably something he thought. Sometimes your foot tells you to go, and it doesn't. But Sidney Frigo, that's a great. Yeah, he's going deep into the national event. He's won points. He actually won a points meet here last year at the ZMAX Raceway. So to go rounds like this, I actually signed his top fuel license a few weeks back at Gainesville. He's looking at going to top fuel racing in 2013. So the more rounds he goes, the more experience he gets.
You and he have something in common. Both looking to go top fuel racing in 2013.
I like that.
That's a whack.
Let Bob come up with them stats. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Well, he brought up your future. Is there anything cooking for you right now?
Like my whole thing, and lots cooking, but it ain't finished yet. It's still in the kitchen.
Simmering, slow cooker.
Yeah, but it's great. The one thing that I can tell you that being out of the seat and underneath from the awning, coming out here, and it's just re-energized my love for this sport. How much that you could do in it. You see companies like Traxxas and other guys just coming in, and how much love they have and excitement, and how much you can actually do in this sport at all areas, from the sportsman level all the way up to top fuel.
Love the logo on your shirt, Larry Dixon Racing. You thinking about maybe team-owning?
I'd like to. The one thing I could tell you, all the shirts I had somebody else's name on it, so I might as well have my own.
Here comes Matt Cummings. And Richie Burke. They are our next pair. And while they back up, gives me an opportunity to remind you the next Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series event comes your way from Houston, Texas. It is the O'Reilly Auto Parts Spring Nationals. You can catch all the action Sunday, May the 6th at 6 Eastern.
As cool as it is coming to this racetrack, for all the alcohol races we go to, I love going to the Houston track. That is a brutally quick and fast racetrack down there. You get a lot of the West Coast guys come in, the East Coast guys. It's almost like an all-star show there, Larry.
Yeah, and the elevation, the track's, it's actually below sea level. So if the weather conditions hold up, but you saw a lot of barriers being broke at that racetrack.
Stack, you got more on Matt Cummings?
Well, I spoke to Matt Cummings for the first time. I said, where did you go to your first drag race? He said, well, I was 6 years old. I was watching my uncle race his El Camino. He said it was in Old Bridge. I said, are you talking Raceway Park, Englishtown? He goes, absolutely. I said, hey, me too.
Running with the Stripe family, who race alcohol dragsters and raise poodles. If I meet one more family that raises poodles and raises alcohol dragsters, I'm going to scream.
Poodle Pumpkin.
They're everywhere.
Now, Richie Berkshire made an exciting ride in that opening stanza.
Yeah, that's a very good race car. He took out Rich McPhillips in that first round, and Richie running out of the number 13 spot against the supercharged car, still in captivity, or at least here.
Troubles on the starting line. Cylinder out for Richie Burke. Didn't matter. He takes the win, 550. Had a problem getting that car stopped.
I think he brought the motor up a little bit too far, and it pushed the car out of the beams. When we were looking at the earlier shots with them feathering the clutch and the throttle pedal at the same time. If you bring the engine up too high, the clutch, it'll actually push it through the lights, even without even if your hands are on the brakes tight.
And that's a relatively new driver behind the wheel of that race car. So you get into uncharted territory, and you got to learn from these things, right, Larry?
Yeah, that's experience. You hate to do it on TV, but it happens.
John Kernan.
And with Sidney Frigo, and Sidney a 44 with a 3 there. Can you find a little more power, a little more speed in this next round?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Dropped cylinder, I think so. I dropped 2 or 3 cylinders in the off of the track, but I tried to make more power, more speed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just got a call from Mickey Furr. He said, now that's an accent. That's it.
Sidney Frigo calling Brazil home at one time, yeah.
Yep.
He goes back and forth. He'll come into Miami, but he's still, his residence is in Brazil, Sao Paulo. Actually, he's got a racetrack, a full-blown racetrack that he runs his cars down there.
For practice, yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's good living right there.
In the cardboard business, I believe.
Yeah, paper.
If I hear another person owns a racetrack and has a cardboard business.
For a hobby, he raises poodles.
Loves cars. Loves cars.
A couple of former Jersey residents here. Karen Stolber, husband Tommy, was racing this weekend. The AA Auto Salvage team. We're not happy with their performances coming into today, but they said they've had some conversations with some folks. Doug Foley getting a chance to drive here for Randy Meyer. That's a nasty, quick race car, and has been. Randy's another guy we talked about. Has put a lot of people behind the wheel of his race car, and this is a very quick car.
And Doug Foley has put a lot of people down the racetrack. He's got his own school and run down there in the super comp and the alcohol categories. So at this racetrack, so we'll see if home court advantage will give him
a little extra.
You hope. He's got his hands full right now.
Let's check in with John Kernan one more time.
With Richie Burke, and Richie a 50 with a 9 there, but we saw Reichert earlier run a 28. Can you find any more to get the old man in the semis?
Boy, Reichert? Boy, I was getting worried there for a minute. I thought I had somebody tough. I don't know. I guess I better go back and look at things and try and tune it up, find a good luck charm, and we'll see what happens.
Well, he's going to go back to the pits and look for a little more speed, I think.
I just enjoy talking with Karen Stolber. She loves drag racing, been to a couple of final rounds, made the decision to switch to the A-Fuel car. They've had some conversation with Steve Boggs, who's helped them out a little bit on this race car, but they're going to have to be on their game. When this car, tuned by Randy Meyer, is running well, it might be the second best injected car out there, Larry.
Yeah, it's Randy Meyer, obviously, with his past history, he's got a lot of time with the A-Fuel cars.
Oh, he's using up that entire racetrack, but gets the win. 532, 267 miles an hour. And if you track that one, it may have been closer to 1,400 foot. He was all over.
He was using the whole lane, but he kept it in his lane.
Well, we got 3 non-winners on tour and the champion in the semifinals. It's a great opportunity here for somebody. We call a wire-to-wire job. Got over near the center line and pulls it back. And the good thing about it, I didn't try to overcorrect.
Yeah, and we actually saw him do that in one of the earlier rounds as well too. There might be something with that lane or with the car they might have to take a look at. But it's very consistent. Did it the same way. Maybe if he got in the other lane, it'd go in the middle.
Probably texting while he drives.
Saw that left tire get all the way into the white, but it will be Bill Reichert and Richie Burke. Bill Reichert with the lane choice. That 528. Worst run of the weekend, still gets lane choice. That's how good he's been. On the other side, Sidney Frigo and Doug Foley following that wild ride. Foley will get the lane choice.
Had some great history here at this racetrack. The new look stock cars that they're coming out with, the Ford cars, for the Chevrolets, there is Don Pizzell. He ran 8 seconds here and became the first ever stock eliminator car in the 8-second. Years ago, Bobby D'Armond became the first one to go into the 9-second range with his category. And there are the numbers, something he will cherish forever. A sensational run right there. Years ago, pro stock cars were running 8 seconds. We never thought you'd see him doing it with production cars. Let's go down to John Kernan.
Yeah, with Doug Foley. And Doug, was that as wild as it looked?
Yeah, it was. It was. For some reason, I don't know. I'm just... the first couple runs were flawless. A to B, no problem. Yesterday, I almost crossed the center line and just barely got lane choice by 4 thousandths. Go out there today, try to really stay focused. It's moving around. I can't honestly say it's the track because everybody else seems to be going, But probably not exactly the best resume for a driving school instructor. But as long as the wind light keeps coming on, even if it's ugly, we'll take it. For Cynical Construction and all the people that support this program, Randy Meyer doing a great job. We appreciate it.
He's got to go back to his students and say, now don't do this. Right?
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly his example. Of course, it looks like he maybe was a dirt track racer, too. He's got that going for him. So, Larry, thanks so much for joining us today.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Continued luck finding sponsorship, finding pieces and parts, because we need you back out here.
No, I'm going to try to be. Not so much in the booth, but on the track, right?
Very cool.
But I don't know. He does great in here as well, doesn't he?
I enjoy it. I'm a race fan. I really do. And so thank you. Thanks.
Let's have a round of applause for Larry.
Yeah. And the crowd goes wild.
Look at that. That's what I think of when I think of Charlotte, North Carolina, right there.
That's the U.S. National Whitewater Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So when you're done watching 4 Wide, why don't you, go get wet at Whitewater. Semis coming up next. The burnouts for top alcohol funny car semifinal time here at Z-Max Dragway in the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals, where the Lucas Oil Series uses just 2.
Little Ford, little Chevrolet getting set to go here, and Foster with that Ford, and Dan Pomponio in that Chevrolet. Monte Carlo, like we said earlier, Frank Manzo on their side of the ladder was out early, so it makes it wide open. Dan Pomponio used to do a lot of racing on a regular basis at Atco Dragway in New Jersey, still living in Berlin, next town over from where I live, and living a dream right now with a chance to take this car into the money round.
Here's the ladders we get set for the final four. It's Dan Pomponio and Chris Foster, as we mentioned, on the track now. Foster picking his lane. Mickey Farrell will pick his lane in the matchup coming up next. But it's Chris Foster right now from Davenport, Iowa. And for more on this driver, here's the stat guy.
Well, he actually started racing in A dragster, Dave, when he was 15 years old. The car was running 750s. He said, why did I start racing so young? He said because Tommy Johnson Jr. did it when he was a young kid. So that pretty much opened the field for him.
43 years of age now. You do the math.
Very solid race car, and Will Hanna's done a great job with his team over the last 2 years to make this car very competitive.
Did Will Hanna give him enough this time? No, it's going to be Pomponio, 567, and the boys from New Jersey are happy, which means that guy, Bob Fry, and that entire team are happy.
Absolutely unbelievable. But Dan Pomponio, first of all, you're in the 9 spot. That means you're on the same side of the ladder as the #1 guy. Goes the distance, wins it by 100th of a second. Pomponio got a great advantage off the starting line, 1/10 of a second in the bank, going by the tree. He was good. Chris Foster was tardy. You add up all the numbers, and Dan Pomponio, Chevrolet, never been this far in his career, is going to run for the championship here at ZMAX.
Chris Foster's going to look back at this and be very, very upset. Goes 5:59, but comes up short. Reaction time goes 0.15, and like you said, do the math. That's the difference.
Dan Pomponio, a decided underdog in the opening round against Paul Gill, one of the best cars in the class. Then he met up with Mark Rogers, who was the upset winner over Frank Manzo. Then came in here again against Foster, a decided underdog in that round, and that's why we always make him go out there and run him on the racetrack. A great job. That's what makes this a tremendous sport. Guys like Dan Pomponio can come out, run for the championship here on the big stage.
Here's another one of the Northeast hitters from Stamford, Connecticut. That is Mickey Farrell in that Ryco Hydraulics car. 6-year-old self-employed business owner set to take on Andy Boll over in the other lane. The Wisconsin runner had the solo run, 561 to get to here. Farrell went 557. That's why he gets the lane choice.
What did Andy say? Our run was pathetic or something like that?
Yeah.
Certainly less than glowing when he's talking about this, but he does a great job. He's like almost a one-man gang on this thing. Gets some great help from the family, but he tunes the car, he drives the car, and he's got Mickey Farrell, and Mickey with an opportunity to really earn some points here. Remember, they have 7 national events out of 10 they go to claim points with the new regional format, so this is a big run right here for the Ryco Hydraulics team. You'd have to say, based on what we've seen over the last couple of years, that the favorite would have to be Mickey Farrell.
The DirecTV blimp will show you how it all goes down at 1,320 feet. Left lane marches away, and how about Andy Boll? Got to be happy with that run. 5:58, 261, and anytime you can put Farrell on the trailer, that is a good run. Checking down to the farm with John.
Well, a very happy Dan Pomponio. Going to your first final, man.
First final national event. This is great. I knew I loved Charlotte for some reason, and this must be it.
Tell me about that run.
The run felt real good. My son and my brother's been tuning this thing lately. That's my brain trust. They've got their act together. I owe it all to them, my family, my friends, but especially those. And also my wife back in the trailer watching my grandkids. This is great. Yeah!
He has Andy Boll coming up next.
Oh, that's funny.
Let me tell you, here in the heart of basketball and NASCAR country, if you had Dan Pomponio and Andy Boll in your ladder in the final, it's like having Coastal Carolina and St. Mary's in your NCAA bracket. Nobody had that.
Guaranteed first-time national event winner. Will it be that man or Andy Boll? We'll find that out coming up later. But when we come back, top alcohol dragster semis. Woo! Wide Nationals here at ZMAX Dragway in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. Great place to spend a beautiful spring day in April. That is Doug Foley, who's over on the right side of the racetrack. He's been over there in every round of eliminations. He's pressed the center line every time, but he's got the win. Sidney Frigo sits over in the other lane. It's going to be Bill Reichert and Richie Bork coming up Burke, rather, coming up in the next semifinal. Highlighted driver, that gets the lane choice.
Injected cars all over the place. And this one right now, from a performance standpoint, might be the second best one. It's a quantum leap from number 2 up to Bill Reichert.
Doug's going to try to get out there again. Did he pull it off a third time? Yes, he did. 541. It's a whole shot win. Beats the quicker, but losing 536. Apparently, his car just likes to cheat that center line.
It's amazing. The guy talked about earlier. He said not a great resume for a drag racing instructor, but he's got a good car with Randy Meyer, and the driver did his job. 500ths in a second, going by the Christmas tree. And when you run 41, the other guy runs 36. Add up those little teeny weeny itsy bitsy numbers, and the margin of victory, my favorite number, 007. The winner, Foley, Doug Foley.
And the tail of the tape will show you exactly what we're talking about. And it says that Doug Foley won that by 36 inches. We also like to call that 3 feet.
We do?
We do.
Well, you're the man.
Yeah.
You're so
I
good
paid
at math.
attention. Let's check in now to the far end with John.
And with Andy Boll, and Andy has been fighting an ignition problem all weekend long. I guess you got it fixed.
I think we did, finally. I needed it for that one for sure. Yeah, this car's actually been doing this for a while, a little bit of each race and getting worse and worse, and it's finally terrible here, and it looks like we got it fixed, so that's good.
Well, he got it fixed well enough that he will have lane choice coming up here in the final against Dan Pomponio.
You know, there's no place to go from terrible except up.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting worse and worse. It got terrible. All right, now here comes the Rizlone team, and just the all-conquering one, Bill Reichert. It's been a great start to the season, as you mentioned earlier, for the supercharged cars, with the Dempkeys, the Whiteleys, running big numbers. By the time he finished that 514 earlier, the texts and tweets and all that other stuff was already going to Dempkey and Whiteley. Let's go to the stat dude.
Spoke to Bill Reichert about that 514 pass. He said when he got to the end of the racetrack, they came over and said, Bill, you ran 514. He was like, really? He did not believe it, because he said he actually had to drive the car a lot down the racetrack. He did not think it was a 14.
You know, standing over there in the other lane is going to be Richard Burke. Old Tappan, New Jersey. Probably know where that is as well.
I believed it was a 514 because he just freight trained the guy in the other lane, you know?
He really did.
And so that's the high rent district in the northern part of the state, by the way.
There you go. Thank you for that.
Everything in New Jersey is the high rent district. Some of it's in the northern part of the state.
Can Richie Burke take him down here?
Yeah, he's got to be better out of the starting gate by 4 or 500s, I think, for Richie to have a shot in this one.
Remember, Mickey Farrow just went down. He had 500s in the bank, but too much Rizlone at the finish line once again. Reichert slows to 538, again his worst run of the weekend, but still more than good enough to go to the finals here at the 4-wide National.
You know what? He'll believe that one. 5.38, ran 223 miles an hour at half track, and just runs basically alongside him at the top end of the racetrack. Only 261 miles an hour for Bill. So shoots out there. You see the cylinders out on the right side. If you're going down, it's better to have your chutes out than your cylinders out.
Yes, I would say stopping is important, especially if you've been near 260 miles an hour. It will be Bill Reichert picking his lane against Doug Foley. This one should be very entertaining when we get to the top alcohol dragster final. John.
Down with Doug Foley, driving instructor, has his own school, and you got out. First thing you said is, whole shot win. That's what a driving instructor is supposed to do. Tell us about it.
That's what we're supposed to do here at Doug Foley's drag racing school. Not exactly follow the entire track down like we did last run, but this one, we went on a whole shot. That's exactly what we try to do. It's what team effort's about. Sometimes the driver wins it, sometimes the crew chief, but it's really about us working together as a group to really do this. But anybody ever wants to try and drive a dragster, you give us a call at Doug Foley's drag racing school.
Yeah, I may call you next week.
The phone number is 1-800-GO-STRAIGHT. That's the phone number.
He'll even teach you how to drive a nitro car. And, we mentioned this is called the NHRA 4-wide Nationals. The NHRA Full Throttle Series is doing that. And this is what it looks like with 32,000 horsepower. Go down the racetrack at the same time. And how about Spencer Massey on this first round win? Goes 330 mile an hour plus.
It's just incredible the numbers they're running. He goes 328 this weekend. He runs 330, sets the national record. But it is just a tremendous performance. And he's one of the guys we talked about with Larry Dixon. Used to race right here in the Lucas Oil Series. Almost a little deja vu every time you turn around. That K&N Filters car for Dan Fletcher. His family in the background is in the final round. Joe Lisa looking to pick up his first ever. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it at the expense of one of the best ever in the business. Dan won here in 2010, won again in the fall last year. Let's see if Lisa can pick up his first ever national event win against one of the best. The answer is no. Yes, he does. Wow, Lisa runs right on the money and gets the win.
Well, the Super Gas final sounds like a law firm. Wojcieszko Attilio.
Yeah, Frank's got that big wheel standing car. Iggy fires and falls back. This is a big speed race car. Iggy, 7-time winner, 2 times at U.S. Nationals. Attilio's already been in the finals at Gainesville this year. To stripe the win, Iggy Wojcieszko runs right on the money.
The Superstock final now.
And Michael Volkman, that ever-popular Dodge Sebring body style on the left side. Joe Santangelo out of New England, one of the great runners here. They're just kind of cruising on down the racetrack. And in the stripe, look at that. Michael just kind of limps across and gets the win at 10:35. That is national event win number 1.
All females all the time, and Super Cup Michelle Furr, Lauren Freer.
Yeah, Michelle loves this racetrack. Oh, and it's a red light start for Lauren, and Michelle Furr went to 2 final rounds here last year. Super Comp and Super Gas. Gets another win. Boy, she is from Virginia, but she loves Z-Max Dragway.
And we move on to Comp now, where it is Tony Terry and Russell Jolie.
Yeah, somebody's going to get their first ever national event win, just like Michael Volkman did. It's a great weekend here. A lot of surprise winners, a lot of very deserving first-time winners here. And Tony Terry has got that altered with the small block GM entry, and then the C-class machine, a little bigger motor, so you'll see the head start. That's a pretty big advantage. Oh, it's a red light for Tony Terry. Russell gets the win, and another win for the gang out of Virginia. Another first-time winner here at Z-Max. Congrats to Russell and his entire team.
And unfortunately, in Top Sportsman, one car, Alan Prushinsky gets pushed away.
That's a shame for Al. For his dad to not be able to make it after whittling their way down through the field, getting to the final round. And Tim Molnar, he's just going to stroll down the boulevard, and he picks up that national event win in Top Sportsman with an 11:88. Might not flash the time card around town, but he will flash the trophy as they push back Al Prushinsky back there on the starting line in the yellow car.
And here we go with our Alcohol Funny Car final. Burnouts are complete for Dan Pomponio and Andy Bull. Somebody going to be the first-time winner.
Yeah, it's so cool. We just looked at a lot of the other guys picking up their first national event wins with guys who, Dodge Sebrings up to the Top Sports and just easing on down the road. And now Dan Pomponio, who used to race at Atco Dragway back in Jersey, still lives in the town, Berlin right next door, and gets a chance right here to run for the money. That's got to be so cool. I say it often, that's what makes this sportsman racing so great. There are nobody cannot win. I mean, guys can come from the back of the pack and do this. Now, having said that, he's still got his work cut out for him. Andy Bull has got the better car and has on a round-by-round basis.
Let's check it with the stat guy quickly.
Of course, chance for the 2 first-time winners. The last time happened at the same event. That was the Maple Grove event in 2010. Mike Austin and Dragster, and of course, John Bojek in Funny Car.
Last time a first-time Alcohol Funny Car winner. Got to go back to Brainerd last year, Chris Houle.
Andy Bull, the competition products and total flow, and he is getting ready to open up his Division III racing in just a couple of weeks out there at Indianapolis. Dan Pomponio with that Chevrolet car, down by about a 1/10 of a second performance here, but we've seen wacky things happen in this funny car. Let's see what happens in the final.
It's going to be the red machine. How about Andy Bull with his first national event win coming at Z-Max Dragway, the 4-wide nationals, 561, 261 miles an hour. The particulars, but all he cares about is the Wally.
Dan did a nice job. He ran 572 at 245. He was first off the starting by a little bit, but just not quite enough. And Andy Bull, who said earlier in the day that his performance was pathetic, takes that car in and gets the win. 5.61, 261. Nice, solid performance there for Andy.
We'll hear from Andy in just a moment. And coming up next, we've got the champ, Bill Reichert, taking on the drag racing instructor, Doug Foley. It's up next.
The NHRA Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series brought to you by Lucas Oil, the world leader of high-performance lubricants and problem-solving additives for everyday cars and trucks.
From the death and despair of a race car that he said was horrible to the winner's circle. We will hear from Andy Bull in just a moment. See Doug Foley. and Bill Reichert complete the burnouts. It's the top alcohol dragster final coming up, John.
And down with a very happy Andy Bull celebrating his first national event victory. Andy, what when you went through your mind when you knew you had the win?
I didn't know. I didn't see the win light come on. I came around the corner and saw you guys lining up. That's when I knew. We got really lucky this weekend. Obviously, there was tons of cars, going faster than us and doing really well. It was just my day. I've had some bad luck racing, and I didn't have it here. I got to thank Hedman. I forgot it. My crew. Look at those guys. They need to get over here. Get over here!
Congratulations.
Well, Bill Reichert's got a great opportunity here. Wow, that is so cool.
Thanks, guys.
Just so cool to watch that. Reichert's got a great opportunity here. He knows that Dempsey's put a couple of wins on the board. Whiteley's on the board with the blown cars. Doug Foley, very solid off the starting line. Let's see if Doug tries to take a shot out of the gate. Randy Meyer's going to give him a good tune-up here to try to keep the former champ honest.
David and Goliath matchup. Reichert, 24 national event wins. Foley, 0. No, Foley's out of it this time. Give this one to the Rizlone machine. And Bill Reichert, he sends this one down the racetrack. 5:31, 264 for Bill Reichert, his 25th national event win. Big time tire shake out of Doug Foley.
Hey, tried to get away with that for a third time and wasn't able to do it.
And down Bill Reichert holds the Wally up, and Bill, congratulations, gives it a little kiss for right there. Tell me about the day, the weekend, just been unbelievable, huh?
This has been an amazing weekend. The car has just outperformed itself even. It really is a surprise when they run like that. Sometimes you get the tune-up just right, and it's a happy camper. So it just depends on getting the tune-up where it needs to be. I got to thank Rizlone and Bars Leaks, and the owner of Rizlone, Bob Murmas, has done a wonderful job with our program through the years. He sponsored us for a long time, and he's still on board. And Redline Oil, NGK, Lane Automotive, all those guys help us out too, and I really respect that help.
Congratulations. We'll see you next time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Chris Dempke may be calling himself a new sheriff, but the old sheriff's got a race car once against that guy.
Well, think about this one. Our defending champions, Frank Manzo and Dwayne Shields, so far this season at national events, a combined 2-round wins, and that's all by Frank Manzo at Gainesville.
Ooh, that means Alcohol Funny Car and Alcohol Dragster are wide open here as we get ready to head to the summer. We encourage you to check out an upcoming divisional race on the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series. That D3 race at Indianapolis, going to be a big one, but we're also heading to Boise, Idaho, and Great Bend, Kansas. We hope you had a good time today at ZMAX Dragway. For our entire ESPN2 crew, Bob Fry, Stack Guy Lewis Bloom, John Kernan, I'm Dave Reef, congratulating all our winners. We'll see you next from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Spring Nationals in Houston, Texas. How about it today for Andy Bull, a first-timer? Yeah, raise that trophy. And for Bill Reichert, the 25th time. So long from North Carolina.